To say that I'm excited for today's gaming PC build would be an understatement, as I'll be combining AMD's brand new Ryzen 9 9950X3D, the chip that AMD say is the most powerful 16-core desktop CPU for gaming, with a top-of-the-range RTX 5090 and stunning all-white colour scheme. Have AMD finally found the answer to Intel's only remaining CPU advantage, their top-of-the-range high core count CPUs for productivity and gaming applications, or does the 9950X3D miss the mark? Let's find out. I'm going to start by running you guys through all the parts in today's build, including some performance benchmarks of AMD's new top-end CPU king, before building this system and seeing how good it looks at the end. And spoiler alert, I think it's going to look awesome. Now let's start with the 9950X3D, because it's the most exciting bit of today's gaming PC. Now while the AMD 7800X3D and 9800X3D have successively claimed the crown as the fastest gaming CPU, they do lack one thing. Both chips came equipped with just 8 cores and 16 threads. And for those of you looking for top-end gaming performance, but also high core counts for editing, streaming, productivity applications, or just something else, you're a little bit out of options. Now the 9950X3D launches alongside the new 9900X3D. The latter has 12 cores, this has 16 cores with of course 32 threads. Now what this is going to do is give you that top-end 3D V-Cache accelerated gaming performance, but with the core count that you'll find on the 9950X, which is of course the CPU this is based off of. Now as far as speeds and feeds go, this chip can boost up to 5.7 GHz for high single core performance, has a really competitive 170 watt TDP, and has a staggering 144 megabytes of cache. That's been re-engineered to give the cooler direct access to the processor cores, which would help with temperatures, which is always good, and AMD claim in their press deck that this is 8% faster on average than the 7950X3D in around 40 games, and a staggering 20% faster than Intel's top-end Core Ultra 9, again across a stack of 40 titles. Pretty good so far. Now of course for our high-end CPU we need a great GPU to pair it up with, and that's where this comes in, the AORUS RTX 5090. This is a fully white themed version of Nvidia's top-end GPU, and of course to address the elephant in the room, you probably can't buy one right now, and if you can you're going to pay way over the odds. Nevertheless, I still needed to use a top-end GPU to really evaluate the performance of the 9950X3D, and of course stock and availability hopefully will continue to improve. But do these numbers actually stack up in reality? Let's take a look. Looking at the performance of the 9950X3D straight out the doors, and we compared it to a range of the fastest and most popular CPUs out there. Everything from AMD's 98 and 7800X3D to Intel's Core Ultra 9 and Ryzen 9 non-X3D CPUs for good measure. We did this initially with the 4080 Super, as that's where we've got the most comparison data, but you can see build benchmarks for this system with the 5090 a little later on. Now in Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p high, of course the lower res is going to put the biggest CPU bottleneck in possible, which is good for our testing, and the 9950X3D was virtually tied with the 9800X3D. Not bad for a chip with a whopping 16 cores. In Apex Legends at 1440p, so slightly higher resolution here, the 9950X3D did very well again, just 0.1 of a frame rate slower on average than the 9800X3D. In Alan Wake 2 at 1080p high, and the 9950X3D actually topped the chart, beating out the 9800X3D by 2.5 frames per second, and leaving pretty much every other option for dead. In Call of Duty's Black Ops 6 at 1080p high, rasterization again giving us that biggest possible CPU bottleneck, and the 9950X3D again beats AMD 9800X3D counterpart, this time by a bigger margin of around about 10 frames per second on average. Looking at some of the synthetic benchmarks, and in Cinebench's multi-core, the 9950X3D does incredibly well. It doesn't quite defy the Core Ultra 9, which is Intel's higher core count CPU, but it gets really damn close, to the point where the actual difference is going to be pretty negligible between these chips. In the single core performance benchmarks, the 9950X3D again does pretty well, and isn't too far off Intel's latest Core i9 13 and 14900K, and of course the Core Ultra 9. In 3D Mark's CPU profile tests, which tests for various different thread counts, and the 9950X3D falls slightly short to the Core Ultra 9 in multi-thread, but is going to give give you that better gaming performance, making it worth the small trade-off. In 3D Mark's Timespy Extreme, the CPU score for the 9950X 3D was virtually tied with the Core Ultra 9. Again, good in terms of that multi-core performance, while in 3D Mark's Firestrike, the 9950X 3D beat out anything that Intel has to offer, and even beat out the 9800X 3D very slightly. It's good to see that AMD have managed to take what was already a really capable CPU for high core count, high thread activities like video editing, rendering, and content creation, and turned it into a bit of a gaming beast. Now, sticking with the white theme in today's build, I've also gone for an AORUS motherboard, which should match. This is the X870 AORUS Elite Wi-Fi 7. And that brings me on to another massive advantage that AMD have got with their new X3D lineup of processors. Now, while you don't want to use a sort of super low power motherboard for their 9950X 3D, you could feasibly install this CPU into a motherboard that you've had for a couple of years. It uses the same AM5 socket as the Ryzen 7000 and obviously 9000 lineup so far, and AMD are going to support this socket for another couple of years yet. Now, this X870 board is a really, really nice design, and when I say this motherboard was hard to get hands on with, boy, I'm not lying, but it might be, and this is a bold statement, the best looking white motherboard I've ever seen. Would you just look at that? Now, the RAM DIMMs are powder coated in white. The Q-code LED display is white. The CPU socket cover and brackets on either side are white. Even the plastic molding for the SATA cables, USB 3, Type A header, our ancillary PCIe X16 slots at the bottom are all white. Flick round to the rear I/O and we've got a good set of connectivity. A white optical audio and 3.5mm jack, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, high-speed USB 3, high-speed USB. This is actually USB 4 Type C with DisplayPort over, so you can actually have a GPU feed out of there. It's just one unbelievable looking motherboard. And of course, it's got the widespread PCI Gen 5 slot that we're going to need for both our top X16 GPU slot and also, of course, for our M.2 slot too, because I've got a Gen 5 drive to go in there for good measure. Now, let's talk about cooling. Obviously, with a TDP of only 170 watts, that's really, really power efficient, and AMD have done some great work to actually get that to that level. We don't need something too powerful. This is the Corsair IQ Link Titan RX, a big eye on aesthetics and performance for me in this build, so going for something that's IQ Link compatible is going to really help with cable management. And I actually did pick up...
Lost and confused, this while James is struggling.
I've lost it. No? Where is it? This right here. Now, this is a bit of a, I don't want to say a gimmick. It's a VRM fan that is actually going to clip onto the top of our Corsair cooler and should help in theory with VRM temperatures. It also just looks like really cool, and that was the reason I got it. Let's talk about memory. I've gone for actually just a 32GB kit from Corsair. This is their Vengeance RGB in white. I also picked up this additional blanking kit. This is a light enhancement kit. They're basically fake RAM DIMMs that do nothing other than fill our other two slots for extra lighting. I used these a few years ago. They were cool then. Let's see if they're cool now or a complete waste of money. Storage-wise, I've gone Gen 5, of course. For our super fast gaming PC today, we want fast storage. This is a 10GB read, 8.5GB write MP700 Elite. And it doesn't require its own built-in heatsink. Again, helping aesthetically and keeping a lid on SSD temperatures. Cooling and fans, I've picked up a selection of Corsair LX fans. These are the standard LX120 and the LXR, which are the reverse model. Corsair, I think, have actually changed their packaging. This is the old one. This is the new one. What do you think? I quite like the new one, to be honest with you. Reverse blade fans, of course, are just going to look that little bit nicer, and having everything easily plumbed together with IQ Link is a selling point for me in this system. Two more parts to cover off. The main one you're going to be interested in is the case, because this is actually from Phanteks. And I've got to give a big shout out to Phanteks for helping make today's video possible, sending this case over, and I'm so excited to look at it. It's the brand new Evolv X2. Let me open it up, show you what it's all about. And here we are. That. I mean, it's a work of art. It's not a computer case. It's a work of art. Oh, there we go. Yeah, great. So we've got ventilation at the top. It looks like support for 360mm all-in-one cooler, so that's going to be great. We've got side panels which just pop off. Room down the bottom here for recessed reverse blade fans. If I take the back panel off, again, we've got more glass. Fully white motherboard tray with silver standoffs and support for those BTF reverse connect motherboards. And this beautiful wrapped around sort of aluminium cover that makes the case look kind of curved. Going to give us wraparound views of the GPU with glass on the side, the front, front and the rear. And you can even see they've got these like metal trim pieces to hide things like the PCI lane covers. I mean, wow. It just is, yeah, I mean, beautifully built, beautifully designed. It's not going to be the best case in the world for airflow, not by any means. We've got obviously room for intake at the bottom, exhaust at the top, and not a great deal else, meaning I think I might have gone slightly overboard on some of the fans. Bye fans. However, I think it's one hell of a good looking case, and it's got a few more surprises in store once we power it up as well, which I'm very excited to check out. I think it's time to go ahead and start building this PC up. And I'm of course going to start off by installing the Ryzen 800X3D into our lovely white CPU socket. There's something quite exciting about installing a CPU you've not actually used before when it's just totally box fresh. Next is going to be the RAM or the memory. I just need to remember which ones are the actual DIMMs and which ones aren't. And it's time to play a game of Spot the Difference. The attention to detail is kind of crazy. The only main difference is that these have got little sporadic notches of gold, whereas this has obviously got far more contact pins as it needs power and data. It is obviously a good thing that you can tell the difference between the two RAM DIMMs, as we need to make sure that the real RAM DIMMs go in the right slots to give us dual channel performance. Obviously, if you're not that bothered about aesthetics, you can just leave the DIMM slots empty, but I thought it was a cool little thing to use. Now, I'm going to be using the second and fourth RAM DIMM slots for my real DIMMs. They've got more of the gold contact strips, so that's how you can easily tell the difference. Just repeat that for your real DIMMs first. Then I'm going to unclip the other slots so I can put our fake DIMMs in. And as you can see from the top, it makes the motherboard look nice and complete. Total waste of money if you're looking for more performance, because guess what? You won't get any. However, for a build like this, I'm not mad about it. SSD is next. I'm going to use this top M.2 slot here. Just pull back the notch, lift the slot up. Don't forget to remove the little plastic protector. And there's one on the motherboard too, so get that up. And then go ahead and slide the drive in. Really, really great to see how far Gen 5 drives have come. I remember MSI had with like the biggest heatsink in the world. Thankfully, this is a bit more simple. So I can slide that in nice and easily. Fully toolless installation, so you don't even need a small screwdriver for this. Gigabyte and other motherboard manufacturers have just made it so unbelievably easy. The last thing I always check before installing the motherboard is how to install the CPU cooler, because there may be some mounting hardware preparation that can be done on the motherboard. I'm going to be using the AMD bag of accessories in this build, so carefully get that open, and then in here we should have all the bits and pieces we need. So for AMD it's really simple. We've just got, he says while struggling to untape them from one another, a pair of these brackets. These brackets are going to slide into the stock mounting hardware, but for that I do need to remove these white plastic pieces on the top and bottom of the CPU and the screws. We won't need those, I just need the holes that they're screwed into. Once that's done, I'm now going to install the motherboard. And by the looks of things, all the standoffs are in the right locations. I'll circle the ones it is you actually need to use, and if you check out the motherboard here, you can see we've got 9, 3 at the top, 3 along the middle, and 3 down the bottom. They all are going to match up perfectly with the ones inside the case. And with a little bit of luck, we can get the board slid into the motherboard tray and just hovered over each of the standoffs. A couple of the standoffs are raised, so it should actually sort of hold it in terms of alignment into place for now. Make sure you use the included screws, which I've lost already. Aha, here they are. The box of included screws to get the motherboard secured down. As I say, there's 3 at the top, 3 along the middle, and 3 down the bottom. You will need to actually take off the M.2 heatsink to get to the middle screw, which is nice and easy, and as I said before, fully toolless. The cooler is then the next step, and very handily, Corsair, like lots of people nowadays, are making it easy for me by actually just installing the fans as they come. Now, I am, again, this is not the most price competitive way of doing this build, but I am going to change the fans out because I've got those much nicer LX fans, which are, as you can see from the boxes, actually magnetic. That's the magnets in the fans holding the boxes together. I'm going to change the fans on the radiator, which can mean one thing and one thing only. It's time for a GeekaWhat Phantege. Get rid of the Phantege bit. It's a bit forced. It's official, I'm an idiot. What we actually need to do is install the radiator above and the fans below. So actually trying to put the rad and the fans below the mount isn't gonna work. Yeah, after 20 minutes, it's been a bit stupid. If you're gonna build in this case, that's what you've gotta do. So let's do that now. Here we go, attempt number 437. Is it gonna fit? Is it gonna fit? Yeah, it fits! That was really stressful. Now, right, I'll be back in a minute. Let me just get this in, get the water block in, get it all sorted, and rejoin you afterwards. That was a bit of an ordeal. Basically, you need to install the radiator above the bracket and the fans below. It sounds like a total rookie error. It just wasn't that clear. So if you are building this system, something to bear in mind. I'm at this stage going to install my final 3 fans, continue with my pretty B-roll of installing fans with 3 reverse blade 120s at the bottom of the case. Now feels like the right time to take a look at this unbelievable 5090 AORUS Master in white. Now the box is absolutely enormous. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Now we've got a beautiful white cooler with 3 enormous fans. We've got this lovely silver accent in. Presumably this is all RGB. The backplate is white. Look at the GPU, the cutout at the back of the GPU die itself. We've got through airflow on this side. Oh my word. And it's a massive triple slot card. Now if we just hover it in, it's going to give us, and it only just fits, a good idea of what it's going to look like once installed. Now let me just remove this little cover here, as this is going to allow me to get access to the PCI lanes. That slides out. And then inside the case, we're going to need to remove the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th PCI lanes for what is a 3.5 slot GPU. And yet, as you can see, that allows the GPU to fit, and wow, what an amazing looking card. So I'm just going to remove the graphics card for now, get all the cables and wiring and the RM1000X PSU nicely secured into place, and then pop the GPU back in and wire this up, ready to boot this system up for the very first time. And with that, I think the PC might just power up. Switch that on, turn the PC on. Okay, yes, the RAM's working. The fan's not so much. Oh, the fans are on! Oh, look at that. That is pretty beautiful. Missing a CPU power, so I need to get that in. And I also want to sort out this VRM module that Corsair kindly sent over for their cap swap CPU cooler. So let me see if I can take this little boy out of there, pull off the top plate. That was pretty easy. And then add on the VRM fan in its place. Is that on? Yes! Let's take a dive into performance, but first, see how good this thing looks when it's all properly powered up and configured in Corsair iCUE. Now that we've seen how the 9950X 3D does in our normal tests, what about the gaming performance of this exact system? Well, on your screen now are a range of different results tested, of course, at 4K high settings in some of the most popular titles. To take a closer look at a couple of them, and you can see Hogwarts Legacy, for example, at 4K high on the 5090 and 9950X 3D, offers up over 200 frames per second on average, a game that's really actually quite hard to run, while Cyberpunk, one that Nvidia obviously love to show off, does really well at over 130 frames per second, that's again at 4K high, while even titles like Marvel's Rivals, that's actually surprisingly more difficult to render than you might imagine at 4K high, performs well on the 5090. Super buttery smooth gameplay with 131 FPS on average. This is a build that really does it all, and while it costs an enormous amount of money, it gives you top tier class leading performance with one of the fastest gaming CPUs on the market and the fastest GPU you can buy right now. I'll leave links in the description if for some reason you want to buy some of the ridiculously expensive parts in today's build. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.